You already know how to read people. You just don't know how to read the signs yet. Because every person leaves clues. And this isn't about learning tricks. It's about learning to see what's already there. Most people are listening to the words. But words are a currency people use to buy acceptance. The real story, the one that reveals what people truly feel, is told in the signals they can't hide. We're going to go beyond simple advice and show you how to see the patterns, the cue clusters that reveal the whole picture. This is a skill no one teaches you, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. This video is a complete breakdown, divided into parts, each building on the last. If you skip ahead, you'll lose the depth, so stay with me. Because by the end, you won't just see others more clearly, you'll understand yourself in ways you never expected. For decades, you've been fed a simplified story. You've heard that 93% of all communication is non-verbal. That number comes from a misread study from the 1960s. It isn't a universal law. Words matter, immensely, but they are only one part of the story. The other part is told in the spaces between the words, in our bodies, our tone, our expressions, and it often tells the truth when our words don't. The problem is, most advice is dangerously simple. You're told if someone crosses their arms, they're defensive. If they avoid your eyes, they're lying. While these can be true, treating them as rules is like trying to understand a novel by reading 3 random words. It doesn't work. A person might cross their arms because they're cold. They might look away because they're thinking. This isn't about learning a list of secret tells. There is no single gesture that proves anything. The real skill is more nuanced. It's about pattern recognition. It's the ability to observe, to question, and to adapt in real time. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned. We're going to show you how to stop guessing and start seeing. Before you can see what's unusual, you must first understand what is normal. This is the single most important step, establishing a baseline. A baseline is a person's natural state. It's how they move and speak when they feel no pressure. Without it, you are lost. Think of it this way. You can't know if an engine is making a strange noise if you've never heard it run perfectly. A person who is naturally fidgety looks very different from someone who is naturally calm. To judge the fidgety person as nervous without knowing their baseline is the first and most fundamental error. So, how do you find it? You do it with neutral conversation. Ask about their weekend, the weather, something they enjoy. Watch them in these low-stakes moments. How do they sit? How much do they gesture? What is their normal rhythm of eye contact? What does their voice sound like? Its pitch, its pace. This is your benchmark. This is their normal. But know this, a baseline from the first few minutes is just a sketch. People change. The goal isn't a perfect profile. The goal is a general sense of their quiet state. Only then can you spot the deviations, the shifts that signal a change in their inner world. The interesting information is always in the change. Once you have a sense of their baseline, you can begin to observe. But we will not look for single gestures. We will look for clusters. A single cue is a word. A cluster is a sentence. This tells you how receptive or guarded a person is. Open clusters suggest comfort and a willingness to connect. Look for an open posture, arms and legs uncrossed. You may see them show their palms, a primitive symbol of trust, as if showing they hold no weapon. They may lean toward you, their feet pointed in your direction. Together, these signals paint a picture of someone who is emotionally available. Closed clusters suggest discomfort or defensiveness. Here you see the crossed arms and legs, but don't stop there. Is their body angled away? Are they creating a barrier with a cup, a bag, a laptop? A closed cluster is about making oneself smaller, more protected. Context is everything. If the room is cold, it's just about warmth. But if a sensitive topic arises and you see them cross their arms, lean back and angle away, that isn't the thermostat. That is a meaningful shift to a guarded state. This reveals how present someone is in the conversation. Engaged clusters are signs of active interest. You'll see nodding, not just to agree, but to show they are processing. A powerful signal is mirroring, where they subtly adopt your posture. This is not conscious mimicry, it's a subconscious sign of connection. Their feet and torso will be oriented toward you, showing where their attention truly is. Disengaged clusters signal that their mind is somewhere else. Fidgeting can be a sign, but it must be read carefully. Is it paired with other cues? Is their gaze drifting around the room? Is their body rigid and still? Are their feet pointed toward the door, a subconscious signal of their desire to leave? One cue is weak, but a cluster of fidgeting, wandering eyes and exit-oriented feet paints a clear picture. The idea that the eyes are the window to the soul is an oversimplification. Forget the myth that liars can't look you in the eye. A practiced deceiver may hold eye contact for too long to seem credible. The secret isn't in the presence of eye contact, but in the change from their baseline. If a person holding comfortable eye contact suddenly looks away when asked a specific question, that is a significant deviation. It signals discomfort. If their gaze becomes an intense, unblinking stare, it could be an attempt to intimidate. Pay attention to the eyelids. Narrowed eyes can be associated with suspicion, as the brain tries to focus. Widened eyes often signal surprise or fear, as the brain tries to take in more information. These are not rules. They are clues that become meaningful as part of a larger cluster. If body language is the performance, the voice is the soundtrack. How someone says something is often more revealing than the words they use. To truly read someone, you have to listen to the music, not just the lyrics. Everyone has a normal vocal range. A significant deviation is a powerful indicator of a heightened emotional state. When a person is stressed or excited, their vocal cords tighten, often causing their pitch to rise. Here, we must be careful. A higher pitch is not a lie detector, it is an arousal detector. That arousal could be anxiety from a lie, But it could also be excitement, joy, or nervousness. The pitch change is a flag that says something important is happening emotionally. Your job is not to accuse. Your job is to ask, what is that emotion? A sudden increase in volume can signal anger, while a sudden drop to a whisper can indicate a loss of confidence. The speed of someone's speech is another piece of the puzzle. Someone who starts speaking much faster might be anxious or trying to rush past a point they don't want you to examine. Someone who slows down might be choosing their words with extreme care. Pauses are especially telling. An unnatural pause before answering a simple question can signal cognitive load, the mental effort to process something. The common interpretation is that this is the effort of creating a lie. It's plausible, but it is not the only explanation. The pause could be a genuine effort to recall a memory or careful consideration of a complex question. Don't jump to a conclusion. See it as a moment of hesitation and ask yourself, why are they hesitating right now on this question? Tone is the emotional texture of our words. It's the difference between saying, "That's a great idea," with genuine enthusiasm versus dripping sarcasm. Tone is perhaps the hardest vocal cue to fake. The most powerful signal is a mismatch between the words and the music. This is called a lack of congruence. When someone says, "I'm fine," but their tone is flat and strained, you should trust the tone, not the words. When the music and the lyrics don't tell the same story, a moment of emotional leakage has occurred. The truth seeps out. Always pay attention when that happens. While we focused on the non-verbal, the words people choose are also packed with information. We are looking for deviations from direct communication. But it is vital to frame these as hypothesis markers, not proof. Verbal pattern number 1. Distancing language. This is a subtle way people create psychological space. Instead of, "I made a mistake," someone might say, "Mistakes were made." The passive voice removes them as the agent. Referring to a traumatic event as the incident instead of the car crash is another example. This verbal distancing often reflects an emotional desire to separate from something that causes discomfort. Verbal pattern number 2. Qualifiers and over-formality. Listen for an overuse of phrases like, "to be perfectly honest," "frankly," or "I swear." A sudden increase in their use can signal that the person feels they need to work harder to convince you. They are verbally underlining their statement because they fear it won't be believed on its own. A sudden shift in formality is also a red flag. If a casual conversation abruptly turns legalistic or overly precise, it can be a sign of defensiveness. They are retreating behind a wall of words, the verbal equivalent of crossing their arms. Verbal pattern number 3. The non-answer. This is a common form of evasion. You ask a direct question like, "Did you finish the report?" and you get an answer that never addresses it. "You know, that report was incredibly complex." They've talked, but they haven't answered your yes or no question. When someone consistently fails to give a direct answer, it's a strong indicator they are avoiding the truth. Remember, any of these patterns alone means little. But when you hear a non-answer delivered with distancing language in a higher-pitched voice, From a person who just broke eye contact, you now have a powerful cluster of cues, all pointing in the same direction. Putting it all together, a framework for seeing. We've covered the body, the voice, and the words. But how do you use this in a real conversation? You need a mental framework, not a rigid protocol, but a way of organizing your observations. It has 4 parts: observe, question, adapt, and reflect. 1. Observe without judgment. This is the first step. Your only job is to notice what is happening. Don't interpret, just see. His arms are crossed. His voice pitch went up. He is looking at the door. Collect the raw data without a story. 2. Ask the quiet question. Now you look for the pattern, the cluster. Does the body agree with the words, or is there a conflict? This is where you don't form a conclusion. You form a question, a gentle internal hypothesis. Not, he is lying, but, I wonder if he is uncomfortable. You are not a judge. You are a curious observer. 3. Adapt with compassion. Based on your quiet question, you change your own behavior. If you sense someone is uncomfortable, you don't corner them. You create space. You soften your tone. You change the subject. Your adaptation is a test designed to get more information or steer the interaction toward a place of more truth. 4. Reflect for wisdom. This happens after. This is how you get better. Think back. What did you observe? What was your question? How did your adaptation change things? Maybe your hypothesis was wrong. Maybe you thought they were uncomfortable with you, but you learn later they had just received bad news. This feedback loop is what sharpens your accuracy over time. As you practice, you will make mistakes. The key is to avoid the traps that lead to misinterpretation. Mistake number 1. Reading a single cue. This is the number 1 error. You see crossed arms and think defensive. Always look for the cluster of reinforcing signals. Mistake number 2. Forgetting the baseline. You cannot know what a change means if you don't know what their normal looks like. Mistake number 3. Ignoring the context. A person shivering in a cold room is not being defensive. Always ask yourself, what else could this mean in this specific situation? Mistake number 4. Cultural blind spots. Gestures, personal space, and eye contact vary dramatically across cultures. A gesture that is normal in one culture can be offensive in another. Be extra cautious with your interpretations when interacting with people from different backgrounds. Learning to read people is not a superpower that lets you read minds. It is a skill of applied empathy. It's about being more curious and less judgmental. It's about forming questions, not reaching conclusions. By moving past simple tricks and learning to see the whole picture, the clusters of cues measured against a baseline and interpreted within context, you gain a much deeper understanding. You learn to respond to what people truly feel, not just what they say. This skill will make you a more effective leader, a more persuasive negotiator, and a more empathetic friend. So the next time you walk into a room, remember to watch and listen with this new lens. You're not just reading people, you're learning to see the human being behind the mask. And the more clearly you see others, the more clearly you begin to see yourself.